Peace, everybody. This is Jamal Robinson, 720 Astrology. So, the theme of this video is the approaching total lunar eclipse in Taurus on November 8th, 2022 at 5:49 Central Standard Time, 5:49 a.m. Central Standard Time. In addition to the lunar eclipse, we're going to give this the subtitle of The Spider. Now, leading up to this event, you know, we've had the whole Halloween celebration, and what's common with Halloween is we see spider webs and little plastic spiders everywhere. Spiders are associated with Halloween, or the regalia and the festivities around Halloween. Well, even before Halloween, I noticed I was finding those little plastic toy spider rings around the house. Of course, my children were leaving them. One in the garage on the floor. One I found in the bedroom on the floor because I stepped on it. One laying on the nightstand next to the bed. And then, of course, seeing the natural spiders in the surrounding environment around my home, in the garage, especially. Many mornings walking out to take my wife's bags to her truck before she leaves, I often walk through a spider web. So the other day, after all this has been happening, I see a spider sitting on the wall in the garage, and I'm wondering, is it dead? Because it's just sitting, never moves. So eventually I went back and it was gone. Now this spider was amazingly still on that wall, but one day I walk out, spider's gone. And at that moment, I said, you know what? Spider's trying to get my attention. So I went to one of my favorite books. It is Animals Speak: The Spiritual and Magical Powers of Creatures Great and Small by Ted Andrews. Highly recommend this book. And so I started reading, reviewing some things I've read about the spider and becoming reacquainted. And I started to see a deep correlation between the spider and the cycle of human existence we are living in right now. And I'm just going to read a few things about this spider, and then we're going to go into some other things, and we're just going to make this a little mini lecture. The spider teaches you that everything you now do is weaving what you will encounter in the future. In the tarot deck is a card, the Wheel of Fortune. This is a card that has to do with rhythms, the rise and fall, the flow and flux. Very timely. Then in another area it says, I'm just going to read this paragraph, all of it. The spider awakens creative sensibilities. It weaves a web of intricate and subtle fabric, as if to remind us that the past always subtly influences the present and future. Often the webs will take a spiral shape, the traditional form of creativity and development. The spider found within the web reminds us that we are the center of our own world. The ancient mystery schools had one precept inscribed above their portals. Quote, "Know thyself, and thou shalt know the universe." End quote. Spiders remind us that the world is woven around us. We are the keepers and the writers of our own destiny, weaving it like a web by our thoughts, feelings, and actions. Now, there is much more to read out of here, but just that in itself is powerful. Let's start with what it says. The spider teaches us that everything we do now is weaving what we will encounter in the future. This is especially important because the Taurus Scorpio axis is karmic. It's karmic. We have resources, sense of value, attraction, currency, food, the earth, the security involving all of these things, a sense of enjoyment of beauty. You have this opposing the taboo, the dark, the hidden, the occult, what may be ugly or what may appear to be ugly, the roots, the feces, the stagnant water. So what's interesting is that, especially with Scorpio's association with stagnant water, we know that this water has to be flushed. And by flushing the water, there's an allowance of cleansing. And what could be just stagnant water can now actually become an engine of regeneration. As in, feces is stagnant water to a degree. That same feces, though, can be used to propagate life. And I want to just say this. The word Scorpio, although we naturally associate it with death, Scorpio etymologically means live. Live. And so we go back here and we see this reference or to the spider as teaching you that everything you now do is weaving what you will encounter in the future. The Wheel of Fortune. This is a card that has to do with rhythms, the rise and fall, the flow and flux. So in other words, spider, as associated with Scorpio, deals with the endings of things, but every ending is a beginning. When we cleanse our bowels, it's the end of the nutrients that have been taken in. The eating, the enjoyment, Taurus. Scorpio is the other end of that axis where it's the elimination. But the elimination is the allowing factor for continued enjoyment or for a more enhanced sense of enjoyment. So just to continue to expound on the spider and on what we have, I just want to reread this again. Spider teaches you that everything you now do is weaving what you will encounter in the future. Spider is associated with Scorpio. Scorpio is elimination. But interestingly, the spider is always weaving. So it's associated with what we think as loss. But through this association with loss, we still see that losing is gaining, because the spider is always weaving a new web. Okay, keep that in mind. Let's go to a couple of notes I took. There's a trinity aspect about the spider, and it plays out in a few different ways. One, we have the spider as the creator. 2, the aggressor. 3, the convergence toward a central point, i.e. the end. The spider is a creator. The spider is an aggressor. The spider is a converger, or one who brings on the end. Now, generator, operator, destroyer. Generator, creator, operator, aggressor, converging point, destroyer. And I must give credit to the great C. Freeman L., because that is what he taught. Something else to keep in mind about the spider, referencing again what we read in Animal Speak, but we're going to expound on it, about the spider being in the middle of the web, as in the center of the world, the weaver of illusion. Now, when we hear illusion, we may be programmed to think that in a negative way about illusion. It's all an illusion. It's not real. And, you know, it's things we say especially in the New Age paradigm. But illusion should not bear a negative connotation. Think about what this really means. The spider sits in the middle of the spider web. Excuse me. Meaning it's the center of the world. It's the weaver of illusion. What is this really saying? The spider reminds us that we are creating our own reality, and that reality is an illusion. And because it is an illusion, we have the power to use our imagination to create the reality that we want and desire. Going back to the book. Spider teaches us that everything you now do is weaving what you will encounter in the future. In other words, we are creating our own reality. With the eclipse in in Taurus, along the Taurus-Scorpio axis. When we talk about karma, the karma is what have we been weaving. And we've had a year, because the first eclipse along this axis was, I want to say, in November of 2021. And for the entirety of 2022, we've had the eclipses occur along the Taurus Scorpio axis, which is rare. So there's been a drilling down. That means wherever Taurus and Scorpio are in your natal chart, you've been drilled. And on top of that, you've had all of us have had Saturn in Aquarius forming a square to that axis, squaring the actual nodes. Saturn squaring Uranus in Taurus. Saturn squaring the sun, what we got going on right now. Squaring Venus, squaring Mercury. So there's a drilling down right now, and something is being solidified. In other words, what are you weaving? How are you working even in the midst of all of the what may be chaos going on? We're being judged on our ability to continue to weave the web we desire to weave. And if we've given in and have been weaving something inferior, then it will show itself too. The karma is not good or bad. It just is. It's just a result of what has been done. It's cause and effect. Spiders are ceaselessly weaving and killing, building and destroying. They symbolize the ceaseless alternation of forces on which the stability of the universe depends. Let me read that again. Spiders are ceaselessly weaving and killing, building and destroying. This symbolizes the ceaseless alternation of forces on which the stability of the universe depends. Even death itself merely winds up the thread of an old life in order to spin a new one. And that's a quote from C.E. Serlo. I think that's his initial, C.E. Serlo. Dictionary of... I can't think of it right now, but the author's name is Cirlot, C-I-R-L-O-T. Also, we learned that the spider is lunar, related to the moon through its psychic and imaginative nature, and the passive reflection of light and waxing and waning phases. The moon is depicted as a gigantic spider in many myths. So this further intensifies the symbolism of spider, because this is a lunar eclipse opposing Scorpio. So we're talking about deep catharsis, deep thoughts, deep pondering, deep reflection. And in these states of deep thought and reflection and ponderance, we are also charged and challenged to be weaving the future. In other words, these deep thoughts and emotions, we must be careful to not fall into the trap of focusing on what I don't want to experience. Because even in focusing on what I don't want to experience, what I do is I solidify the emotions around that, and I continue to attract it. So the challenge is, while being mindful of the past, this is not about being dismissive. While being mindful of the past, we are being challenged to be looking on to the future based on what we have and what we want. Be clear on what you want, and make sure you're not more clear about what you don't want than you are about what you want. At minimum, there should be equal attention and awareness of what you want as you are of what you don't want. And that is part of the spider teaching us. I realize that this web has run its course and I am actively destroying this web. But at the same time, I am making the calculations. I am positioning my body just right. I'm making sure I've got enough silk, and it's time for me to spin a new web. Now, here it talked about, in my notes, I said, the spider symbolizes the ceaseless alternation of forces on which the stability of the universe depends. Now, this brings us to what is going on inside our blood. Actually, inside of our cells. Our cells have a structure that holds it in place so it does not collapse on itself. It's called a cytoskeleton. Okay? Now, this cytoskeleton is scaffolding that connects all parts of the cell, prevents the cell from collapsing on itself. It transports molecules, coordinates information, and regulates genetic expression. This cytoskeleton is like a web. This cytoskeleton is a matrix. We always hear about we live in this matrix and it's all illusion and Maya. But it's a web. It's a necessary web. Because look what this web again does in our cells. It prevents the cell from collapsing. It transports molecules. Molecule, the root is mullik. Mullik, king. Molecules, Melchizedek. Mullik, same MLC, MLK, MLC, Mullik, king. Melchizedek is king of righteousness. So the cytoskeleton is helping to move the king. The royalty that in us that is on the subtle level. It's moving that. It coordinates information. It regulates genetic expression. So this matrix that we're always referring to as being illusion, it has a purpose. It is moving cosmic data. That's why we're here. We are moving light through us. We're moving cosmic data, and we are transcribing experiences on our DNA that promotes soul evolution and also helps the source itself become. It supports the continued evolution of infinite intelligence, which is why it's infinite. It is constantly growing, like the spider, constantly destroying and building. Alterations in the cell's physical state can alter its genes. The condition of the cell, whether it's pulled, pushed, plucked, released, determines the genetic expression. So again, we see this ebb and flow, this balancing of tension. Well, the famous, I guess we'd call him architect, Buckminster Fuller, coined the term tensegrity. And tensegrity refers to any physical structure that stabilizes and supports itself by balancing opposing forces of tension and contraction. Structures are stabilized mechanically by balancing internal and external forces. Whoa, 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 whoa. Wait a minute. We got to go over that again. It refers to any physical structure that stabilizes and supports itself by balancing opposing forces of tension and contraction. Structures are stabilized mechanically by balancing internal and external forces. That's Metaphysics 101. Naturally encoded in us is a challenge to overcome the world of duality. So we stand between two poles, and we're challenged to figure out how to balance them. Everything's dualistic down here. We're bipedal. We've got 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 feet, 2 nostrils. Everything is. But one thing that we can really learn from our sense of smell and eyes, and sense of sight, I should say, is that although we have 2 eyes and 2 nostrils, 2 ears, they come together to create one sound that is heard, one smell that is inhaled, one sight that is seen. More than ever, the way we think and speak is of great significance. At a cellular level, this cytoskeleton, this dome, or this structure that Buckminster Fuller used to create his geodome. You've probably seen it, the little semi-shaped dome. It looks like webbing structure, and it's glass and the I don't know what type of steel, I guess, running between. He based that on the spider web and the actual structure of the molecule. In other words, we depend on maintaining a certain degree of tension or stress, because if there's too little stress, we just collapse. There's no life. If there's too much stress, then we have mutations, i.e. cancer and viruses, immune dysfunctions, other things, by having too much tension. So I want to read a few more things about the cell. Cells, shape, and degree of tension change. Each physical state affects what the cell can do. Cells attached with extreme tension keep making the same cells. The more attached and tense we are about something, the more we make the same thing. Now here is the caveat to what I said earlier. I said that in the midst of being aware of what we don't want, we should be equally, but really more aware of what we do want and desire. At the same time, we should be aware of what we need to be letting go of, what we are holding on to, because Taurus can be guilty of holding on to things where they need to be let go. Scorpio can be guilty of feeling at a deep level a sense of lack that can cause obsession, that can prevent the realization of what one already has. So now we're seeing the flip, the side of the coin, where we're seeing how the cells attached with extreme tension keep making the same cells. So with this lunar phenomenon, we're also challenged to be thinking about, what do I need to release so that I can receive? What am I holding on to that needs to go? Reading further. Extreme mental tension about not having enough, not being good enough, the whole knot of knots may hold me attached to that position. What if I finally let go of not enough? Will my body and mind allow me to receive a different message? Wow. This is a great time to be thinking about what I am ready to let go of. What have I been shown over and over again that I need to let go of? And so a little ritual to consider is but not now, not while during this eclipse phase, but let's say about few days down the road. Here's something you can do. Take you some Pepsi or any dark colored soda. Write down some things that you feel like you've been holding on to that it's time to let go of. Write them on paper, tear it up, burn it, take the ashes, put inside of the Pepsi, pour it into your toilet, and flush it. In other words, you're gonna pass it like fecal matter. Because we know that if we don't have enough bowel movements, our body stores up or creates toxins that of course contributes to illness and dis-ease. So we're going to do something to eradicate that which is stagnant and that needs to go. That which my body has identified as being toxic. As in, I've gotten everything I can get nutrient wise from it, and this serves me no purpose. This needs to go. Now again, don't do this on the eclipse, as in Tuesday. Don't do this. Don't do it Wednesday. Don't do it Thursday. Give it some time. Maybe wait till next week. Get rid of the toxins. The spider is referenced in the Bible. So I want to read some stuff to you. Proverbs. Proverbs 30:24. There are 4 things which are little upon the earth, but they are exceeding wise. Then it goes to verse 28 to say that one of these is the spider. The spider taketh hold with her hands, and is in kings' palaces. The spider taketh hold with her hands, and is in kings' palaces. Hands represent manifestation. The spider will manifest its reality. It will create the web of its future. It also has access to kings' palaces. The spider has no limitation. It can go anywhere, including the king's palace. And in that palace, it can weave its web. It's the power of the spider. Proverbs 9:1. Wisdom hath builded her house. She hath hewn out her 7 pillars. She hath killed her beast. She hath mingled her wine. She hath also furnished her table. She hath sent forth her maidens. She crieth upon the highest places of the city. Whoso is simple, let him turn in hither. As for him that wanteth understanding, she saith to him, Come eat of my bread, and drink of the wine which I have mingled. The spider is wisdom. So when this passage says, Wisdom hath builded her house, this is the spider, the grand architect. This is the time to be building your new web, as an old one gets destroyed. And if you were forward thinking enough, then you started building your new web a while ago. And now you're moving into a season of reaping the benefits of the work you've been doing to build this new web. Finally, I want to look at the etymology of the word spider itself. One root is pend, P-E-N-D, stretch, spin, hang, weigh, hence consider, weigh out money, hence pay. Spend, S-P-E-N-D, Roman numeral 2, stretch, spin, work. This is an extension of the root sphi, S-P-H-E-I, Roman numeral 1, which means broad, spread out, broad strip, move, cut out, draw out, stretch, prosper. I want to look at this, what I just read about broad, spread out, because the original meaning of the word manure was to spread out with the hands. Spread out with the hands. I read the part in the scripture about the spider taketh hold with her hands and is in kings' palaces. The spider has the power of manifestation, taking hold with her hands. The word spider, connected to the root spin, which is an extension of sphi, itself meaning broad, spread out, which connects with the word manure, which means to spread out with one's hands. This again brings to mind the word manifestation, the root of which is man, and man means hand. Which is where we get the French manure, which first meant to work by hand, to till, to spread. I also mentioned that sphi means draw out, prosper. With this eclipse coming up, a season is ending A new season is beginning. A web is being destroyed. A new web is being built. Here's the question. Are you building your web, or is someone or something external to you building your web? Are you the weaver of your now and your future? Or are you waiting for something or someone to create your future for you? Well, that's enough on all that. I think Spider has spoken. I hope that whoever gets this message will remain grounded, remain focused, remain stoic, remain confident, remain courageous. Tear down that old web and get to building a new one. If you'd like to work with me, I'm available for a host of readings through my website, 720astrology.com. Also, I have coaching available, astrological coaching that's based on your natal chart, highly personalized, highly individualized. Look forward to working with you. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, like, share, subscribe.